emergency. And she's like, oh no. And she's like, you can't. And I'm like, and she's like, these things happen, these things happen. And I'm like, you telling me these things happen? My dad just died. You out here telling me these things happen. And so that's when I knew. I was like, I am done. Hi everyone, welcome to another video. If it's your first time, welcome to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, how's it? What kind? Now, as you guys can see by the title, I have been in Rematch not once but twice, and in today's video I am going to talk about it. I'm not talking about the actual rematch process, but I'm going to be speaking about why I went into Rematch. It's still one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, and so I might tear up or not, hopefully not, but yeah. But before I get into today's topic, let me give a shout out to these two amazing people who were the first people, these two, they were the first people to comment to my previous video. So thank you so much for commenting. A big shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome and amazing. But I'm pretty uncomfortable here, so I'm gonna go find a comfy spot in this house and then we're gonna sit down. I'm probably gonna get something to drink because I just feel like it's such a heavy topic to talk about. I may need something, so I'm gonna sit down and then we guys can talk about it. Before I start my story, I just want to say that this is clearly my experience and my point of view and what I went through. I don't want anyone to think that I'm doing this video to bash the previous host families or the host families that I've had that I'm speaking about, but I just want to speak my truth because I feel like back then when I was an au pair, I was so young, I didn't know anything. I just tolerated way more than I should. And knowing all that now, I think that's why I'm so passionate about doing videos about au pairing and just helping au pairs, because gosh, I never want to see any au pair go through that. It genuinely gets to me. And same with host families. And when I spoke with other host families, I had like friends in the area at that time who were like, their host families were amazing, and I just always would get their opinion and be like, am I crazy for thinking this? Or is this crazy that it's happening to me? And they would like almost like confirm it to say that, yeah, it is very strange. So I'm just gonna say with the one family and with the other family. So with the one family, the reason I went into Rematch with them is I knew from day one. So when I got the house rules and everything, it looked normal. It looked like how my mom's house rules are, and I was like, okay, great, I can do this, it's easy. But when I actually got to the house, I literally got to the house. I remember clearly, I got to the house. They gave me a tour of the house. I went to my room, I closed the door, and I cried. I cried straight away. I bawled my eyes out. And now people who know me personally, especially before my dad died, I do not cry. It takes a lot for me to cry. And so I bawled my eyes out because then and there I had realized that I had made a mistake. I literally knew there was no chemistry whatsoever. It felt like literally I stuck out, and I just genuinely felt like I made the biggest mistake. I cried. But once again, if you know me, I pull my socks up, I give grace, I try to push as hard as I can and be like, okay, when I quit, I genuinely quit. And so then what happened was I was with this family, and then after 2 weeks, I said, so that same day I was waiting till my LTC comes because you have to do like a 2-week checkup or something. And my LTC came and we did a checkup, but we all did it together. And I was like, I want to speak to you on your own. And so the chemistry was one of the reasons why I wanted a rematch. Another thing I felt I wanted a rematch for was they overworked me, guys. Like now looking back, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like poor baby Angel, she tolerated so much. They would say things like, oh, can you water the plant because it's, let me just put a name out there, let's say the child's name is Jessica. They'd be like, it's Jessica's favorite plant, because in the agency I was only allowed to do things for the kids, so they would almost make everything in the house for the kids. I mopped corridors, like the house was massive. I would mop like hallways, even the guest room. I don't even know why I did half these things, but once again, I was so like young, naive. I just didn't question anything, and I was also raised to not question adults. I just didn't question anything, and I was like, no, they've had a few au pairs before me, so they won't break the rules. But everything they would do, like they were just small things, like they would constantly make me, they'll say, oh, you can't put a lot of washing in if it's not full. And I was like, I understand it, we're not trying to waste water. But at the end of the day, I would do the kids' laundry, like put the kids' laundry, and then they were like, no, but we don't want you to mix their laundry with theirs. And I was like, okay, fine. And then the mom would bring their laundry, so like her and her husband's laundry, and be like, we want them to mix it with ours. And so I'm like, okay, cool, it's just pressing a button, I genuinely don't mind. But then afterwards she's like, oh, like asking, can you fold it? And I'm like, no. And so like I would move it aside. And I don't mind, once again, I don't mind folding washing. I've folded for this current host family before once or twice. I've folded for my family in Colorado. I generally don't mind it. But the problem came when they wouldn't do it for me. Like both. So I've had two terrible families and I've had two amazing families. So the two amazing families is the one from Colorado and this one that I'm at now. And both those families, I would do it in a heartbeat because I know they would do it for me too. Whereas with that host family, I was genuinely the maid. I was full on the maid. The way they treated me, they used to like constantly want me to cook all these things. And this is my problem with both these families. They were the biggest hypocrites because they set all these rules for me, but they didn't do it. And so that was one thing that got to me. But the biggest thing out of everything with this family, the family I'm talking about with the plant and the washing, it was just, guys, when I say it was just not a great fit, we just didn't have chemistry. And they loved me, don't get me wrong, they were like, you're such a hard worker, you're great, my daughter loves you, and the others also love you, the older ones also love you, you know. And I was like, yeah, it's great, but I genuinely hate this. And so let me tell you guys the final straw. I sat them down and I was like, this is not working. And they gave me excuses. They're like, maybe you're homesick, and I was like, no, I know myself, I don't quit. And then the final straw was a few weeks into it, my dad dies, and I'm like, okay, like I need to go home for the funeral, this and this and this and this. So I say, listen, I need to go home for your funeral, and it's an emergency, I genuinely want to go home, that whole thing. I say to the dad's like, you know what, take all the time you need, go for it, please, like just let us know, fine. I say to the mom turns and she's like, oh no, oh no, who's gonna look after the kids if you go? And I was like, but in Aupair in America, they ask you to always have a backup in case your Aupair gets sick or emergency happens, and this is my emergency. And she's like, oh no. And she's like, you can't. And I'm like, and she's like, these things happen, and I'm like, you telling me these things happen? My dad just died, you out here telling me these things happen? And so that's when I knew, I was like, I am done, there's no way. I called my LTC and I was like, I want to go into Rematch. And she's like, no. And I tell my LTC, like, she doesn't want me to go for my dad's funeral. And my LTC was like, okay, let's just get you to your dad's funeral. Like, that's the main important thing. I had no friends at the time. And yeah, my host mom was like, you can't go home, nobody to look after my kids. And I get it's like last minute. I told her like the Monday, and I was only gonna leave like the Wednesday or the Thursday. But her response, like, I genuinely get where she's coming from. She needs a nanny, she needs this. But at the end of the day, if somebody is telling you that their dad has died and they're in a whole different country, your first response is, oh no, like things happen, or oh no, you can't go because of childcare. That just showed me that they genuinely didn't care. I was like, what do you need to happen for you to just care for me in a way? So that was the one family. The other family, fine, I got to South Africa, I had my dad's funeral, I bury my dad, like life happens, that happens. Then I come back. I'm like, my family, even the agency didn't expect me to come back. But I was like, you know what? I was like, yo, listen, I paid money to come here. I haven't even really seen America properly, and I don't quit. I knew in my heart that it's gonna frustrate me, and every time I hear the word au pair, I'm gonna think of the time how I went to America for a certain amount of months and I quit. I didn't even finish my first year. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna suck it up. Literally, everyone back home was like, you don't have to. I could have still went back to my job, because that's how recent was. I could have went back to my job. I literally could have stayed back home. But I was like, you know what? I believe in this program. I really want to come back. I really want to push through, make it. Fine. Guys, I come back. Girl comes back, still heartbroken, like my dad died, everything. I speak with the family I moved to in South Africa or whatever. I tell them this is why I'm in, whatever. Fine, great conversation. I come to the house. The house, great. First week, great, whatever. But I started noticing that in our conversations, and this is one thing, host families, please, if you are a host mom or a host dad and you're watching this, please be genuinely honest with your au pair, because these are the reasons why au pair is going to rematch. You guys, well, not you guys, the host family watered down. They didn't tell me the full situation. So coming in, I was told, oh, the kids are just energetic, hyper. And I was like, okay, cool, I can deal with an energetic kid. My nephews are energetic, they run around, they play. But nobody told me that tests have been done, like, you know, personality and like, you know, nobody told me that there's like schools and therapists, there's like, you know, professional people involved. And I was like, only when I got there and when I saw my schedule and I started seeing stuff, I was like, you know, like, hold up, you know. And it's a big responsibility on its own, taking care of somebody's kid. Don't get me wrong, it's a big responsibility, and I am genuinely not afraid to take care of a kid who has special needs. In fact, oh, I just spat. In fact, I actually requested that when I did my profile. I was like, I generally don't mind taking care of a kid with special needs. I've had that in the past. I have someone in my family that has special needs. I'm not afraid of it, you know? But I just feel like I should have been aware of the situation. And maybe, honestly speaking, I would have said no. I literally just had buried my dad. I was in no state for something that's gonna be emotionally, you know. And so I came and I genuinely tried. Like, I tried. There were situations where the host mom would constantly say to my face, oh, if you don't want the job, quit. And I was like, okay, fine. And then there was just situations where I genuinely also once again just felt like I was an outcast in the house. I was never like, I was like, for example, Christmas time, they put me on the kids table. I was what, 23, 24? They put me on the kids table with the 9-year-old. And then I just felt like I was looked down on because I want obsessed. I don't even want to say obsessed with the kids, but there's been incidents where I'm like coming down, maybe my friend's outside waiting for me in the car. Like, I'm coming down and running, ready to go. And these are grown kids. These are not like babies, like 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds. These are not those ages. These are grown kids. Come down, the kids are like, let's play a game. And I'm like, I can't, I need to go. Like, it's the weekend, it's my time off. And there'll be situations where it's like, oh, the mom will get angry because it's like, you can't even spend 5-6 minutes extra with the kids. And I'm like, yo, I've been over my hours long time ago because you have tendencies of coming back late. And it's not even to say I didn't want to. It was just one of the situations where I just genuinely hated. Like, I genuinely hated the whole thing. Whereas here and in Colorado, I used to hang out with my host families all the time. Like, even here, I could go with my host mom to the mall. I could chill here outside of my working hours. It's because I have a great relationship with them. And from day one, we spoke about our expectations with one another. Whereas here, there were so many things, and it was just like my time wasn't valued. Like, genuinely, like, I was told I couldn't eat during work hours. So if I start at 7 o'clock, I can't be eating breakfast with the kids while they're eating breakfast. I must make their breakfast and do other stuff. And for me, that was like, okay, this is a job, I'm gonna treat it like a job. And so at work, when I knock off at 4 in a corporate job, I go home at 4 o'clock. Same day. When I was done at 4, I would be up. But then she would finish all my 45 hours, fine. And then the last day, always come late. However, if I came 1 minute late, I would never hear it. I would like never hear the end of it. And so I feel like I'm just ranting and raving. But these are the reasons why I was just like, I had to go. I just felt like there was so much expectation that was required of me, but nobody told me that. Nobody said, this is what I expect from you. Or even if when they did say it, it would be like, I don't know how to say it, like, you know when somebody's standing on top of you and watching to make sure you're doing it properly, but like micromanaging. And then one thing that was also one of the straws for me was the kids were only allowed a certain amount of TV. Now, I am big on kids going outside and playing outside. I have grown up that way. I love it. I'm just like, sit inside, TV will always be there. Go outside and be a child. That's my thing. But I was given a certain amount of minutes. I think it was like in one day, it's half an hour for both of them, like maximum. Like when I say half an hour for both of them, they both have to watch 15 minutes, something like that. But I would be like, okay, cool, fine with me. But then I would come back on the weekends And like this one weekend in particular, the kids had watched like High School Musical, but High School Musical 1, 2, and 3 all in the same row. And I was like, hold up. Like there are times where it's just so hectic. I need the kids in front of the TV so I can make them dinner. I can't like have both of them, even if it's like extra 5-10 minutes, but because I'm over the schedule and they're gonna complain because the kids are gonna be like, oh, I watch TV, and they're gonna be like, how much TV did you know? It was like those things where it's like, you don't give me grace, but you want me to give you grace. And so those were like the the reasons why I left that family and I went into an amazing family in Colorado. I finished off my year with them and I was happy. So those are like the reasons why it just didn't work out with those two families. Now, having said that, with other au pairs, maybe it would have worked. Like honestly speaking, maybe some au pairs would have tolerated that. I don't know. You may watch this and be like, that wasn't bad. Now that you've heard my story as to why I went into Rematch, be honest and open with yourself, because with both those processes, I've never been so broken and just felt so alone and so isolated. And so if you feel like the match is not working for you, be honest and open. And also don't be people to walk over. Like literally don't be a walkover, because there are amazing host families out there. They are, as much as there are trashy host families out there. Vice versa with au pairs. There are amazing au pairs and there are trashy au pairs. So my advice to au pairs is don't be a walkover for anyone. You came into this country, or whichever country you're at, you're far from your family, you should not tolerate it. And that's one thing I learned, but it took me a long time to learn it. So my advice to you is, if you're in a situation and you generally feel unhappy, obviously with both these situations, I sat them down and we tried resolving the situation and it just did not work. Like it just did not work. After so many talks, I still felt like the Rematch was the best option. And thank God, because my third family was amazing. My family in Colorado, I was really happy with them, and so was this family. This family, I went home and I came back, but this family was amazing. This family is amazing too. And so there are host families that are amazing out there. It just may take time. So yeah, don't settle for anything but the best, because if you're sitting and you're depressed and I lost so much weight because of those situations, and it's just not worth it. But anyway, on a lighter note, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for watching my video. Once again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a fabulous day. Bye!